We get to talk about mothering together, and specifically mothering without fear, without letting fears consume us. It's kind of lovely because we have different stages of mothering represented among us. Gloria, how would you talk about mothering without fear at your stage of life?
Yeah, two things come to mind. One is looking to Christ and having my focus be on Him. Recently I've gained tremendous encouragement from reading in Revelation Jesus' introductions of Himself, and having that be the lens through which I look at my kids, my day, my life. He says things like, I am the living one. I have the keys to death and Hades. I am alive forevermore. I'm coming. When I see Him for who He is now, it encourages me to mother my children without fear. The second thing that comes to mind is my relationships with the older women in my life. I have several older women who I love and who love me, and they love my kids. And I can come to them with the daily fears that I have and the big picture fears that I have, and they're able to point me to Jesus. One of my friends has said, you have no reason not to trust Jesus. And she just says that with the most candor and love, and it just encourages me greatly.
That's really encouraging. And to be learning those things, even while they're little, is a great groundwork, isn't it, to establish as they grow and leave you. You don't stop fearing in the later stages, do you? We can fear in different ways at different stages. Noël, how do you grapple with that?
I felt more fear after my children got to the stage for leaving home.
Really?
And learned something that I should have known earlier or should have known more of. And that is, as my children were leaving home, all four of my children are adults, I realized that what I had was prayer and trusting them to God. And, I would start to think of it as, well, they're gone, all I have is prayer. And then I'd say, what am I saying? What did I have before? But I just didn't realize it. I was praying for my children all along, but I didn't feel the full weight of it until I knew that I was trusting God for them, and I wasn't having the direct influence or direction that made me feel while they were at home that somehow I was more in control than I really was. Yeah. And then as different children are taking different paths, there are times when I would wake up in the middle of the night and feel, that's when I feel greatest fear, in the middle of the night. And what if this, and what if that? And to go back to sleep again, I just had to say, okay, God, help me remember, I'm trusting them to you, and that child is an adult now, and it's between him and you. Yeah.
As I come also into that older stage where my children are adults, our children are adults, and two of them married, we do more and more of this opening of our hands, don't we? And we always have been giving them to God from the beginning, from before they were born.
Yes.
And yet we learn it, I think, more and more vividly as it happens more and more physically, as they're sometimes farther and farther away from us. And yet in those stages, I agree, we understand better our closeness to the Lord and the privilege of giving them to the Lord in prayer. I think I've also understood, or am learning, that if my heart is motivated by the gospel and not by sort of my own desires, and none of us is there yet, but we know that's where we're headed, then what we'll want for our children, our gospel purposes, not
Yes.
our
Yes.
purposes. What would you add?
Oh,
Yeah.
I would just say to that, amen. And I just thought of two blessings that God gives. One is that you don't know everything your children are doing. Then you'd really have a lot more to fight against.
Yeah.
And number two is that when both parents are praying for the children, I tended to be praying for what they were doing and who they were meeting, and my husband is praying for their eternal souls. So each of us is reminding the other of broader prayers, but both kinds of prayers are going up.
That's great.
So it's good, really, really good to be doing it together.
That's great. Well, may we more and more be daughters of Sarah who do good and do not fear anything that is frightening.